Is it real or is it not real? Is it just a mirage? We have reached that place in politics where it has now become very important for us to be able to tell whether what we're witnessing is real or it is just a mirage, just a perception game. Yesterday, President Ruto hosted thousands and thousands of youths, Gen Zs, etc., at State House Nairobi. Was it real? You tell me. But if you're not sure, stay with me. I will come back to that later. But for now, let us contrast what was happening in State House yesterday and what happened in our nation. I'm sure it's still fresh on our minds. Sometime in June 2024, there was a lot of activity online by youngsters, and many of us believed it was not real. Even yours truly, even our intelligence community, they believed it was not real. Well, looking behind today, that thing was so real that the Gen Z overran Parliament and caused President Ruto to engage his first ever reverse gear during his entire political career. He has never used the reverse gear. But in June 2024, he used the reverse gear. He was forced to. Okay? So that was very real. But not very carefully. When it started, it did not look real. Okay? But cutting to the chase, what is at the top of the mind of every Kenyan is it may look like this Ruto regime is going to limp and survive until 2027. Simple question. Is it real, what we are seeing? The indications we are seeing that that may be possible. Is it real or is it not real? And that is a critical question because it touches on the future and indeed on the destiny of the nation called Kenya. Friends, we have reached that place in politics where it is critical, whatever you want to analyze, it is very critical, first of all, to make a decision. What you're seeing, this latest development, is it real or is it not real? And you know, it can even get much more complicated than that, because there are some things which obviously do not look real, but apparently down the road somewhere one is jolted by evidence, brutally so, that shows you clearly this thing is real. I think an excellent example of that is what is unfolding in our country. Very sad, very unfortunate. During this month of August, we have had so many fatalities. Indeed, a very good illustration to confirm that this is much deeper than just being on the surface was the accident which took place in Kiambu, where an aircraft known to have an excellent safety record fell from the sky, and people who were in their houses making ugali were suddenly at the gates of heaven or the other place. Please let us make a distinction here between an accident and a freak accident. A lot of what is happening on our roads right now, if you examine carefully, are freak accidents, which just tells you, confirms that this is much deeper than just being on the surface. You need to look at it deeper than that. What I can say is that we live in a very, very evil world. And indeed, even in our nation called Kenya, we live currently in a very, very evil society. And I believe one of our biggest problems is that people worship something called money. Money is worshipped in Kenya. You cannot deny that. A few hours ago, I listened to the MP for Langata being interviewed about being in the committee of a wedding that spent over 600 million Kenya shillings. Imagine just a wedding a one-day event. And he was complaining that somebody said it cost only 500 million. And he was emphasizing that they were lying. Why? Because it cost 600 and something million. Now I just listened, shaking my head and wondering, what is this? Well, the answer is that we are worshippers of money. We don't worship Almighty God. We worship money. What that means is that most of us are prepared to do anything to get this thing called money. Use whatever means. Do whatever is necessary. It doesn't matter how many people you hurt. It doesn't matter how many people you cause to lose their lives. Just do anything to get money. Because in the end, when you have that money, Kenyans will worship you. Even if you're a standard 2 dropout, they will worship you. Oh boy. And this evil pagan idol worship cuts right across the political divide. Oh boy. And it also seems to cut right across the nation. Yeah, it doesn't matter which tribe, it doesn't matter which part of the country. Friends, please let us continue to be very cautious about this month. I will be constantly praying for the protection and cover of all supporters of this channel and followers and their loved ones, that the Most High may protect them. That the Most High may protect them and their loved ones from freak accidents, from this ravaging thing, that they may be spared in their mission, because they are part of this big mission of a better Kenya. Anyway, I hope by now most of us realize just how important it is to have the ability of being able to tell if something is real or it is not real, and being able to do so in good time before it is too late. But now I want to give you a big hot tip on how to be able to tell that something is real, in good time. Not early, but at least in good time. Now, before I do that, I just want to take this opportunity to remind you that many people have benefited greatly from sponsoring a video on this channel, especially those who have a plot or some property somewhere that they want to sell. Most of them have gotten an absolutely amazing response on this channel. But even people selling products and services have gotten excellent results. It would seem that we have a very unique, captive audience on this channel that may be very difficult to find anywhere else, all in one place. So I want to remind you to take full advantage of that. It can cost you as much as 19K or as little as 8,500 Kenya shillings. Use that email address you see on your screens right now. Shoot me a quick email and I will give you the details. It is also a very good way of supporting this channel and what we do here. So, this big hot tip, and I'm going to tell you a story, a very brief story to illustrate it. Just yesterday, Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen said something very interesting and something which took me by surprise. Okay? What did he say? He directed, oh yes, he's the CS Interior. Yeah, the DCI falls under his docket. He directed the DCI that as soon as Rigathi Gachagua wa Munyoro lands back into the country, he must be arrested. The former Deputy President who was impeached is currently on a tour of the United States of America. I think most of us already know that. Now, why does Kipchumba Murkomen want Rigathi Gachagua to be brought in for questioning and to be held against his will? According to the CS, Wamunyoro has not only washed Kenya's dirty linen in public abroad in the United States of America, but he has also started talking about security issues like they're things which should be taken very lightly. And especially where Wamunyoro claims that some people met members of the Al-Shabaab group. According to Kipchumba Murkomen, the only way Omunyoro got that information is that he has people sitting in during Al-Shabaab meetings. So he needs to inform our local DCI who are these contacts of his within Al-Shabaab, who are able to know who the group was having meetings with. You will remember Omunyoro claimed that President Ruto in Mandera had a meeting with Al-Shabaab. I'm sure you remember that. I covered that in a previous video. And of course, remember, we were talking about a big hot tip on how to spot when something is real. In this instance, what this development tells us is that the heat which Omunyoro is causing in the Ruto regime is real. Doesn't it? Because there is a reaction. And so the hot tip is the following. The reaction of people will tell you most times whether something is real or not. Standing away at a distance, it may appear that that guy there, that big heavy guy, is stepping on the toes of that young attractive lady. It may appear so. But is it real? Look at the reaction of the lady. If she's screaming in pain, it is real. If she's just smiling, it is not real. You are seeing your own things, or what you're seeing is not real. It is not there. You know, for a long time, many Kenyans, including many people on this channel, have been trying to convince us that Rigathi Gachagua is having zero impact on the Ruto regime. It is nothing. The revelations he's releasing, the things he's saying, they are nothing. They have zero effect on the Ruto regime. Well, here is very clear evidence to you that that is not true. That this thing is very real. The pressure which this government is feeling from Rigathi Gachagua is very real. So real that a cabinet secretary for interior can come to a public meeting and announce sensitive things which should just be left within the offices of the interior docket. He comes out and announces it in public. You know, years ago, my political lecturer was trying to give me a lecture on police arrests. And I remember very clearly, one of the things he emphasized about that protocol is that the person being arrested, every effort should be made. People should go out of their way to ensure that the suspect never ever suspects that they are about to be arrested. I remember that very clearly. So what is happening here? I will tell you. The government and Kipchumba are scaring Kenyans. It is a desperate attempt to stop the wave and the floods. You know, those particular remarks by Omunyoro were not only sensitive, lakini iliguza mahali pabaya where this regime is concerned. Yeah, I think that is rather obvious. Anyway, I see this thing a lot amongst Kenyans on social media and even on our Telegram forum. Something happens and immediately people start analyzing, concluding, before they have asked themselves the first basic critical question before they even attempt to analyze the situation. And that is the simple question: is it real? Is it? And then of course, once you're persuaded that it is real, you can go right ahead and start analyzing the situation. I also believe even if you suspect, you just have a suspicion, you have enough to suspect that it is real, you can go ahead with the analysis. But then what is happening is that something just happens, poof, people are already analyzing it. Raila Odinga has an accidental meeting at the airport somewhere, in a hypothetical situation, with Rigathi Gachagua. People are already analyzing a possible grouping between Raila and Rigathi Gachagua. You see what I mean? It is important to know, and it is important to determine as early as possible whether what you're looking at is real or not. Especially in this tricky world we live in, where there are people who are very busy 24/7, 365 days a year, creating things that look real but are not real for certain objectives that they have. I know some of us know exactly what I'm talking about. Now let me finish my show today with a nice small story from the past. Growing up, my political lecturer in his lectures always ended up talking about a man called Tom Mboya. And I started getting very curious. Indeed, as the years went on, I got more and more curious. And so when I became a journalist and got very attracted to investigative journalism, project number one for me was to try and solve the mystery: who killed Mboya and why? Of course, the rumors flying all over were that the government was responsible. But then I embarked on this project to do an investigative piece to solve that mystery. Well, it took me about 15 years on and off. But there is something very important I learned, a lesson, which I want to share with you today. And it is this thing of small clues. You have this tiny little clue. You're not even sure if it is true. But it is a small, tiny clue. That thing may be so important that it helps you solve the entire mystery. And in the case of Mboya, according to my political lecturer, maybe Mshene amongst cops, I don't know. According to my political lecturer, Mboya's last words, yes, there's something he said shortly before hizo risasi mbili zilimmaliza. What is this that Mboya said? According to my lecturer, he said, "No, not after what I've done for you." Something to that effect. In other words, Mboya was shocked and horrified that this person he had helped so much, this person he had assisted so much, was actually on the other end of that bunduki that was about to end him. Looking back, I wish I'd focused more on that earlier on in my research than I did. After all, it was coming from a very credible source. Very credible. Although some of you may say I'm biased, but that was a credible insider source that gave me that information, according to me. And in the end, it turned out that this particular individual had received training outside the country, including training on how to handle small bundukis. Very specialized training. And guess who had organized it? Tom Mboya. Now I can hear somebody asking me, how did Mboya have such contacts in the early 60s? How? Where did he get such contacts? Well, those who have taken in my classic series, Mboya, It Was More Than an Assassination, will already know the answer to that question. But I'll tell you, he got it from his connections with idara ya ujasusi uko Marekani. Let me just leave it there. Now you can get hold of this classic series I did in an amazing package that includes the ebook that reveals how Mutula Kilonzo Sr. was murdered, and it also has 2 other highly sensitive special reports, and it also has a collection of videos linked to that ebook of how Mutula Sr. was finished. You can get all that for only Kenya shillings 1999. You can see the details on your screens right now. Use our usual telephone number for M-Pesa, and you'll have this super fascinating information that I'm sure will go a long way in sharpening your skills of being able to tell what is real and what is not real. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.